Special Operations, Covert Ops, Espionage, The Team House, with your hosts, Jack Murphy and David Park.
And then in 2005 in Iraq is when I ended up getting wounded. We were up there in Mosul. And I think, I can't remember, were you one of our snipers then, or was it before that?
No, it was after. I was with Weapons Squad at that time.
Okay.
And so you were with 2nd Platoon.
Okay. No, I was with 3rd Platoon. I was a squad leader for 3rd Platoon at the time.
Okay.
I was with 1st Platoon before that, but 1st and 3rd were up there together in Mosul at the time. And I was one of the squad. I was the most senior squad leader for 3rd Platoon at the time.
Yeah. I saw. Yeah, I was a gun team leader in 1st Platoon on that deployment.
Okay, so you were there.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty busy trip.
Mm-hmm. So you were one of the guys that took frag from the which incident was it where you got hurt?
That was up in Tal Afar. We had done all those hits there in Mosul, and then afterwards we pushed up to Tal Afar. That city was so bad at the time. Our intel was saying, hey, Big Army's got this whole thing contained. They're getting sniped every time they go in there with tanks or whatever. The guys are getting shot in the hatches. So they had pretty much backed off and contained that area from what we were told. And we were to go in there, bust it up. So the first night we went in there, we drove by Stryker. I think it was about a 2-hour drive, maybe less. My memory's horrible, but we went into there, did a hit on one place, ended up some guys tried to squirt and roll away. Some of our snipers took those guys out. And then after that, went to the next building. And I take that back. I think that might have been earlier in the day in the Mosul. But then we went to Tal Afar. And essentially the big mission where a lot of guys got wounded at, we went to hit this target. We were all stacked up on the building, getting ready to go. At the time, I was across the street, pulling cross coverage on that side. We rotated our different squads through as like the primary assault squad. And I had just been it. So now I was back out on the outside edge, pulling security for those guys as they pushed in. So we ended up trying to go into this target nice and silent. Well, some of the helicopters at Kiowa flew over, and at that point in time alerted the bad guys that we were there. So we heard there was moving around. At that point in time, the guy, Mike Elliott, who was a squad leader, getting ready to breach the door, ended up getting compromised by a guy at the door. So they just did the right thing, took off into the door, yelled compromise, and essentially took a grenade blast for his entire squad, pretty much point blank, right in the breach of the target. And from what I remember after that, we're waiting, trying to see what's going on. The PL's yelling, looking in there. And then I went past with my squad about the same time. Chuck Kogel's team was actually going in to relieve the rest of his squad. And they went in, we went in, cleared out, and I started seeing wounded guys. We were dragging them away from contact into a room and essentially just telling them to treat themselves initially until we can continue and secure the target. So we pushed on through, and these guys were just dropping grenades like rain off the roof at us. They're just going off all over the place. We were getting ready to go across an open area, and the open courtyard cleared into another side of the room. And one of my team leaders, Jeremiah Daigle, was in front leading the way, and super solid dude. He's leading the way. Well, gunfire goes off, grenades go off, and I got sucked into that room to try to clear that. Me and a couple guys went in there. Well, I didn't even realize, but one of my guys had taken a shot in the shoulder and in his leg as well. It was one of our Tab Spec 4 saw gunners at the time. And Daigle saw that, and thank God that he was there, because that guy jumped on him. And he was an EMT qualified guy at the time. And so he fixed that dude up, patched him up. And if it wasn't for him, that guy would have died. So anyway, I wasn't aware of that at the time. Meanwhile, I'm trying to clear this other room. Guys are still throwing grenades all over the place. I pulled back to try to figure out what's going on, because at this point in time, we've got a lot of guys all over the place. It's a lot of chaotic stuff. There's not a lot of guys on comms because guys are pinned down, or platoon leader and platoon sergeant were pinned down over here. Forbes is on the roof with a sniper team pinned down. So we're just trying to make headway so that we can breathe. So I pull back, link up with some of the other guys, and I notice another grenade gets tossed into this area where we have casualties being worked on. And it seemed like everything kind of went slow-mo at that point in time. I looked at the grenade, And I thought, oh, I'm about to be one ugly son of a gun because it's about to blow up in my face like any minute. But I was like, oh, I'm kicking this thing. So I booted it into a room, and then I dove over to the right, which is where one of my old roommate, Chris Emboden, was laying there wounded like crazy. I dove over to him, and then that's when I realized I was wounded, bleeding all out of my arm, and got fixed by the docs. And then after that, it continues after that. If you want me to go deeper, I probably went too far down a rabbit hole.
No, I'd like to hear how this wraps up, because to tell you the truth, I remember the aftermath of this, but I don't know that I maybe I did at the time, but I don't remember talking to somebody describing the events blow by blow that happened inside the building that day.
Yeah, it was a wild night for all of us. I mean, we had been expecting this for years, but this was, I think, for most of us in that platoon, if not all of us in that platoon, was our first significant gunfight. So a lot of guys were like, wow, we heard some little pop shots, or you go to a target, there's a dude with a AK at the front door, one dude smokes him, and target's cleared pretty much. Nobody else is going to fight. But this was one of the ones where these guys were ready to fight, and they were ready for us. And we took some heat because of it. But because we stuck to what our training was, and we kept our security, we kept comms with guys on the target, we were able to work it out, bring up our vehicles in really tight, narrow streets, get those dudes loaded up on the medevac vehicles, and we didn't lose anybody. Luckily, we had some significant casualties. We had several guys that we were pretty sure were going to die, but luckily, those guys all made it through and able to walk on their own two legs. So, they didn't lose limbs either. So, we were extremely blessed to make it out of that mission that unscathed, I guess you could say. And they ended up leveling that entire city block after we left and killed 200 or 300 more guys. But I think they estimated we killed roughly 50 something guys with direct fire initially on the target, maybe less than that, but that might have been with CAS. But then all total afterwards, they just bombed the crap out of it because all the bad guys came in, started collecting the bodies of their buddies and cheering about it. And they took them out after that.
I remember when you guys came back, and I remember mopping the blood out of the back of the strikers. I know it's kind of morbid to talk about, but yeah, it was dicey, and I'm glad that everyone made it home from that.
Yeah, it was a sketchy mission, that's for sure. It's the first one that at the time in the middle of it, I was thinking, might not make it back from this one, but we all worked together and we pulled through it, and it was absolutely amazing to see the young Rangers. Guys that like equivalent to you, essentially, like the E4 tab E4s that were in the platoon at the time, just like robots, man, just doing what they're supposed to do. Everybody was just like a machine clearing. Some guys were waiting for guidance, but it went down, for as chaotic as it was, it went down relatively smooth.
Yeah.
So
it's really a testament to the mindset, the type of the quality of guys that are in the regiment, and then also just the training that you guys had up to that point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we had done probably, excuse me for tweaking my neck. My dang neck's always killing me. Body's destroyed after all those years of abuse. I know you guys know, but yeah, so we had trained and we had done that type of mission set probably close to several hundred times, if not close to 800 or 900 times at that point in time. Most of us had several deployments to Iraq and at least one, if not two, to Afghanistan at that point. Or any team leader and above essentially had several deployments. So we were pretty solid, and my squad was pretty stacked too at the time. I can't remember if it was that deployment or the next one, but I had like 4 E5s under me. I was the E6 squad leader. I had like 4 E5s, and then like a tab spec 4. So we were super stacked.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I credit all of those guys and the training and the people that we worked for, that everyone came home alive from that deployment. It was pretty. I think we were all kind of surprised.
Yeah, I really was, and I've that was probably deployment 4 or 5 for me. Mm-hmm. And I had seen a little gunfight here and there before that, but that was the first big one. And then after that, saw many more similar to that, or close to it at least. And Yeah, we were definitely lucky in that one, because most of the other ones that were that intensive with gunfire that I was in, someone would get killed or badly wounded at least. And I know probably one of our worst wounded guys in that mission was Andrus. I mean, he got shot in the knee and the shoulder, but I mean, the guy was. I mean, I'm sure the dude's got some serious pain right now, but he was almost like 100%. He was doing PT, hanging with the boys about a year or so after that. And he had a lot of surgeries. But all the guys pretty much recovered. Imboden ended up coming back. He took my squad. The very next deployment, he ended up taking over as the squad leader for my squad because I was getting ready to move out to go be a RIP instructor at that point.
He was a tough dude. That guy, he could
He
probably
was.
pick me up and thrown me over the brown fence if he wanted to.
Oh yeah, he could throw me over the brown fence too. I mean, even then, and I was like 240 pounds, like zero fat. But Bo was probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 inches shorter than me and weighed as much as I did. Yeah. Solid steel, boy. I mean, that dude was a beast. And that's the last dude you wanted to carry in a training event if he got wounded, you know?